I've been a photographer for over 12 years now, and in that time, I've seen a massive shift in the technology when it comes to the post-processing side of the industry. When I was just starting out, it was basically me just experimenting with a whole bunch of different software that were honestly all pretty basic. Making small changes to the color edits, maybe tweaking the composition, honestly nothing over the top or crazy. Now, over the years, yes, I have learned a ton of tips and tricks on achieving a certain look or accomplishing a certain post-processing task. But you see, there had always been a certain level of post-processing that was unattainable or too hard for most photographers. And even if you knew how to do those things, it would frankly usually take too much time that you might not even have. But now, we're in 2025, and technology is better than ever. The sponsor of today's video is Aperty, which is an incredible photography editing software that might just change your entire photography workflow. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh Josh, more technology and more software that will take us even further away from real photography? No. In fact, my argument is that powerful editing softwares like Aperty allows photographers to focus more on the storytelling and first principle shooting, rather than technical aspects like retouching or relighting. So today, I'm here with my friend Naomi, and we are doing a shoot that is completely new to me. I don't very often shoot with just artificial light. I almost never light a scene this way, and I don't really shoot a lot of acrobatics and yoga at all either. By having such incredible tools like Aperty, I'm able to pour my heart and soul into the photographs themselves and worry a lot less about what I need to do behind the computer later on. But anyways, let's talk about how I'm going to set up this shoot. Okay, so here is our backdrop for the day. It is a white paper seamless background that I have about 6 feet on the floor and about 8 feet high. I'm going to make sure to have all of the house lights and every single light turned off in this room, except for my only light that we're using for this shoot, which is this guy. This is the Godox SK400 Mark II strobe light that I will have synced up to my Sony A7 IV with a rather large parabolic diffuser with, if you can see, a grid underneath. Now to light this scene, I'm going to move my light as close as possible to the backdrop, raise it up really high, and have it pointed down, just like it is right now, more so facing the backdrop. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to light the backdrop as much as possible, make it nice and white and bright, while providing still some fall off on Naomi when she's in her different poses down here. The reason I have the grid on the parabolic diffuser is because I want to be able to direction the light more direct towards the backdrop and have less spill on Naomi herself. And then the only other thing I'll do to light this scene is use my Godox V860 Mark II speed light and bounce it against a reflector back onto Naomi. I'm going to have this speed light at a very low power, mainly to fill in a little bit of shadows on Naomi's underside, the part of her body that will not be lit up by this big strobe. Now, yes, this is a pretty basic setup with only one strobe and one speed light, with kind of a janky way to have a reflector standing there, but the results are pretty impressive for a lighting setup this simple. My girlfriend just came home and treated me to my favorite smoothie ever. Isn't it just nice to treat somebody with something that you know that they're gonna love? It's the best feeling ever. Anyway, so don't mind the smoothie just sitting there. So, my shoot with Naomi was an absolute success. Like I just mentioned a second ago, this whole shoot was very new to me. I very rarely light with just artificial light. I very rarely light in this way from just the top down, and I don't shoot a lot of acro or yoga, so I was leaning to Naomi to direct me with posing and stuff that she thinks that might look good, as she is very much the professional in this space. Real quick, go ahead and give Naomi some love down below in the description. I have her IG link down there. So now that we're back behind the computer, it is time to have a look at these photos and edit them in Aperty. Now, with any new software, especially in the photo video space, you know as well as I do that there is a very high bar, a very high standard that these softwares have to meet to even be credible or taken seriously by professionals in the space. There's a lot of other software out there that's been around for quite a while, so for a new piece of software to come out and work as well as Aperty does, this is blowing me away. And genuinely, like I mentioned earlier, and this is the whole thesis of this video, software like Aperty allows me to focus more on my actual photography, my actual storytelling, and worry less about what I have to do after the fact on the computer. So let's hop right into it. Okay, so real quick, a little tour of Aperty itself. Up top right in the center, you have your metadata for your photo. This photo was shot at ISO 100 at 37mm at f5.6, 1/250th of a second shutter speed, and it even has the photo resolution size. On the top left, you have a few key buttons. You have projects, add images, erase and clone, which I will be using in a bit, and dodge and burn. On the top right, which is the only piece of color on this whole software, is a big blue export button. Across the bottom, you have a preview row of thumbnails of all your raw images, and in true photo editing software, all the magic happens on this right-hand panel here. From top to bottom, we have presets, masking, canvas, essentials, retouching, reshaping, creative, info, and an undo button. The photo of Naomi we're going to edit for this video is this one right here, with Naomi standing up on one foot and her holding her back foot with her hand behind her and her other arm straight out. We shot a ton of different poses, but this one I thought really shows off the lighting setup and the overall vibe of this shoot. Speaking of vibe, my edit for today, I really want to go for a black and white feel. I want to go for a bit of a noir, a bit of a high contrast and high key kind of vibe, while also making it look maybe even a bit film-like as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the presets tab, the very top tab on the right hand side, and under color, I'm going to go to black and white and just click through a few of them here. That's classic noir, urban grit, timeless charcoal, oh I like that one, monochrome dream, and vintage slate. Now normally my black and whites I would probably choose something like monochrome dream, but I want it to be a bit more punchier, a bit more black, so I'm going to go with timeless charcoal for this one. And then next, right off the bat, I'm going to go into canvas and crop this photo for 4x5. I'm also going to straighten it out because I noticed I didn't shoot perfectly straight. I'm looking at her foot for this part. And if you want to, you also have a bunch of optics options to correct for lens distortion, vignetting, etc. But for this, I'm going to keep it as is. Then I'm going to come down to the essentials panel. This is where I'm going to make all my necessary light and color edits. As you can see, because I applied that preset, Aperty already went ahead and applied some very light adjustments to the image, but let's go a step further and really dial it in. First, I'm going to bring my exposure up just a bit more, maybe there. I'm definitely bringing my shadows up to get more detail in Naomi's bodysuit. I'm going to bring down the highlights ever so slightly. I almost never like to have pure white in my images. I love to have almost like a light gray white. I'm going to bring down my contrast a little bit because I'm going to add more contrast in a minute in the curves tab. You know what? Highlights are going even lower. I'm also bringing my whites down just a hair, and that should be good for now for develop. Next up, I'll go on the curves panel, and I'm going to adjust a couple of these pre-made points again from that preset. Maybe bring this one just a bit further down, really to strengthen those highlights. I especially want Naomi's skin tone in these images, the yellows and the oranges, to be very, very dark, very contrasty compared to the bright light we have shown on the background. And you know what? I used to be way more into crushed blacks, but not anymore, so I'm going to bring this actually down here, and let's see what this point does here. I think I'll keep it very close to where it was. Now, one of my favorite tools in Aperty is this before and after slider. I use it all the time. It's very, very good to help you keep track of where the edit is going, what direction you're going in, so that you're not just going totally off the rails and going too crazy. So down here on the bottom right, above your film strip of images, is this before and after button. Click that, and now you have a slider on the actual image itself. Then you can slide back and forth and check to see where the edit is going. Underneath the curves tab, we have color, and normally I would edit a lot of color in my images if my image was a color image, but this one's black and white, so I'm not going to make too many adjustments here. But I will say, just because an image is black and white doesn't mean that HSL does not apply. You can still make changes to things like hue, saturation, and especially luminance that will affect the image. For example, if I adjust my orange tab here, let's bring it down, and I toggle this on and off, you can see I've even further deepened those skin tones on Naomi's body. Normally for a color image, I would never go this drastic on something like saturation, but for black and white, you can really get creative with it. I'm going to bring my reds up a bit because reds tend to come out more in the highlights of skin tones, and with these highlights, I really want them to pop. I'm also going to bring my red luminance up a bit. I'm going to also bring my orange luminance up a bit too, and think of this kind of like bringing the shadow slider up, but specifically for the oranges. So as I raise it here, look at Naomi's thigh and how much more detail comes out in different parts of her body that were otherwise lost into the shadows. And sometimes I just like to take a slider and bring it all the way to the top, bring it all the way to the bottom to see how it affects an image. For example, I'm noticing that yellow for this one is actually adding a very nice vignette to the shot, which I'm going to utilize. Alright, next up, I'm going to go into the retouch panel. So right off the bat, as a rule of thumb, I like to bring up this blemish removal to about 50, and this will apply, if you give it a second, a very nice overall blemish correction to the image. A lot of the time it is very subtle, so you can play with adding a higher number on this blemish removal dial, adding a lower number, and seeing what works for you. For this one, I'm going to go a bit higher actually, maybe to 65. Now, normally for portraits that show a lot more of the subject's face, you would have so many options here in Aperty to really dial in different aspects of retouching like face, eyes, mouth, makeup, contouring, highlights, eyeliner, and lips. But for this photo, because it is primarily of Naomi's body, I'm going to be concerned with the very last option, which is body skin. So for the body skin smoothing slider, I'm going to bring that all the way up to maybe 70, actually maybe 80. And if I toggle this back off and then back on, Aperty does a really nice natural smoothing to the overall body skin. Alright, next up, we're going into the creative panel. Now, under the creative panel, you have a lot of different options. You have relighting options, you have portrait bokeh options, you have LUTs, you've got film grain, vignette, and high key settings. And that one specifically is one that we're going to apply for this photo here. Now, with this slider, a little goes a long way, so I'm going to bring up this amount for high key right here, maybe to about 20. And if I toggle this off and on, you can see how it just added that punchier high key feel to the overall image. I'm also going to scroll back up and add a bit more film grain, maybe also bring the roughness down to like 5. And the size, let's bring that back down to 10. Oh, that still seems like a lot, let's bring this back down to 15. Nice. And now that I've run through all these panels, I like to ask myself, okay, is there anything that I want to change differently from the top down? Like back to the Essentials panel, is there anything else I want to change? And in this case, I might just go back to the Develop area and add in a bit more shadows and drop those highlights just a bit more. And you know what? I'm going to drop the whites as well. Alright, great. Now we're going to go into the Erase and Clone area, which is up here on the top left. I can adjust my brush size with this slider here, or by pressing the square bracket keys on my keyboard, which are normally just to the right of the P key. I usually like to use a pretty small size and zoom into the image, and then I'm going to just go around and click on each of these spots, which will then remove them from the image. Alright, give me a second, I'll be right back. Alright, I really like how this photo ended up. Again, all of my edits, all of my color edits, my light edits, my erase and clone, my retouching, my relighting, the high key settings, the grain, all of that was in one software with Aperty, which again, I'm super impressed by. There's also just like a certain feeling and character that certain editing softwares give an image, and I'm really happy with how Aperty is processing and editing these images. Genuinely, when I thought of the vision for this shoot and how I hoped it would turn out, this was it. So, the current state of photography. Now, if I'm being honest, a lot of these softwares may seem overwhelming, but if you give them a chance, they can really improve not only your workflow, but your overall output and your creative vision as a whole. Now, yes, Aperty is obviously sponsoring this video, but having software like this has been a game changer already to my workflow and has really helped to bring a creative vision that I normally would not have gone after to life. If you want to check out Aperty, and I highly suggest you do, I'll leave a link down in the description for a special discount, plus you can get 1 month for free. So I recommend to you guys, try out software like this, try out Aperty, try out other pieces of software that might challenge you and push you towards new creative ideas, new types of photography, and new genres of work that you've always wanted to dip your toes into. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, like this video, and leave a comment about what you want to see more of on this channel. And until next time, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.